Hey there, neighbor. Glad you could join me. For those of you who were around back then, I want you to do me a favor. I want you to think back to the time of the NES. Think of how cool it would have been to hear that there's this game that has a huge mansion for you to explore. And it's filled with all sorts of monsters that you can kill using weapons like guns and grenades, all in an effort to find 10 pieces of a huge uber laser that you could then put together and use as a weapon in the fight against the last boss to save your brother's life. That sounds pretty sweet, right? Well, you'd be dead wrong. This episode of the Save Files is all about a game that sounds good on paper, and probably should have stayed there. This memory comes from Dr. Chaos. Dr. Chaos had just about everything going for it. It had an awesome name. It had a pretty sweet premise. And their marketing department was on top of their game. Look at this box art. It looks pretty badass, right? Then there's the title screen. Even that was solid. The title's made out of dripping blood. I'm pretty sure someone's getting murdered on the second floor. This could be one hell of a dark and scary game. Let's play it. What the fuck? Rats and bats? They're not scary at all. Just annoying. And they respawn infinitely, by the way, unless you're close enough to the spawn point so that your aura stops them, I guess? If I have to explain everything in this game that doesn't make sense, we'll never get through it, so let's just move on. The gameplay sounds like a winner. In theory, anyway. You can explore this big mansion in typical side-scroller fashion, but going in one of the doors results in a change to a first-person perspective, allowing you to search all four sides of the room for collectibles, opening closets, windows, and cabinets to find guns and health, and eventually warp zones. No, not that kind of warp zone. The story's kind of fun, too. Your name is Michael Chaos. Wait, stop. Michael Chaos? Nothing against the Mikes of the world, but when your last name is Chaos, Mike seems like a pretty bland first name. That'd be kind of like being named Brian Murder, or Steve Death, or Tim Armageddon. Anyway, your brother is the titular Dr. Chaos. He's been experimenting with extra-dimensional space, but something seems to have gone wrong as the good doctor is missing, and there are 11 warp zones scattered around the house. It's up to you to enter all the warp zones, defeat the bosses at the end of every one, collect all 10 parts of the laser gun, defeat Cambarian, and save your brother. And all of that would have made for a good game. But the designers must have been inhaling paint fumes, cause this game blows ass! The controls are a wee bit off. It feels like there's a slight delay whenever I do anything. The enemy selection is laughable. Aside from the rats and bats I mentioned, there's slimes, piranhas, small circling clouds, skulls that explode, skulls that don't explode, flying skeletons, and finally, a creepy six-breasted man-beast that the designers decided to call an elephant for some reason. And a lot of these enemies are cheap as hell. The combat's just not fun. And the platforming's nothing special. Pretty much every warp zone consists of trying to figure out which path you're supposed to be on, and trying to get it right before the bad guys kill you. Of course, to even get in a warp zone, you have to find it first. And now, we get to the heart of the matter. The specific memory I have of Dr. Chaos. Not knowing what the hell you were supposed to do. My buddy Jorge had this game when we were kids, but as far as I can recall, he didn't have the manual. And we would spend I don't know how many hours roving around the mansion trying to find some way, any way, to move the game forward. We eventually realized the best way to find anything was to search everything. But the game penalizes you for that by sending a freaky gorilla thing wearing someone's ribs after you and slowing you down so that you can't avoid being hit a few times. The internet didn't exist back then, and nobody's parents would agree to let you call a tip line for $3 a minute. We literally had no way to figure out what we were doing wrong, so we would just mindlessly wander around the mansion for a while until we died or got bored, which never took long, and put in a better game. Like anything. Not long after the internet came along, we realized we could look up the answers we needed. We even talked about it once. But we no longer cared all that much, and working NESs weren't as easy to get a hold of then as they are now. When speedruns started appearing on the net, we'd keep an eye on the sites, figuring if neither one of us actually wanted to beat the game ourselves, we could at least watch it get beaten, but no one ever did one. So I decided, while recording the footage for this episode, that I was going to beat the game myself. After 20 long years. And I finally did it. That's for you, Jorge. You are missed, my friend. Oh, no, he's not dead. He's just not here right now. And I was looking up because the dude's, like, super tall. He's, like, 6'37". Anyway, that's my memory of Dr. Chaos. I hope you enjoyed it. In the meanwhile, I've got some more memories to make. He's like 6'104". He's like 6'2087". 6'1,000,000". He is like 6 foot. He's tall.